Another Hollywood pretender is trying to make everything about him and his political enemies. This time, it all has to do with X-Men 97.
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die any minute. Going for a ride down the side.
Yes, my friends, it started all over again. Now that X-Men 97 has been released, and by the way, I'm not going to review it. I'm going to wait till the season ends before I give my full review. I will say the first two episodes I've enjoyed. Of course, here come the Hollywood elites. All want to make it about them and their political enemies, people they don't agree with, that they want to throw aside. And that's what happened with horror director Joe Russo. Not to be confused with Avengers Endgame co director Joseph Russo. This is a different guy. He's done a slate of horror films. Good for him, but he is wrong in this case. And I'm going to discuss it, and this is coming from Bounding into Comics. And by the way, all his X posts are still up. Even in those rare moments when a piece of media refrains from bipartisan preaching, it seems Hollywood must go out of their way to force such a narrative upon it. This time, as horror director Joe Russo has attempted to claim that the adaptation of the classic The Trial of Magneto comic book storyline in X-Men 97 was done not to a homage to the series' source material, but as a direct commentary on the MAGA crowd, and then also J6ers, of course. And then Bounding into Comics does a fantastic summary of the Trial of Magneto story arc, and they do a really expansive one where they talk about what it meant, what it was about, the scenery, and it is recaptured in the second episode of X-Men 97, Mutant Liberation Begins. Now, I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'm not going to talk about this, but then it goes into what Russo said. And I want you to read the whole article on Bounding into Comics because it's very good. And in the opinion of the aforementioned Rosso, this scene was specifically, that being the trial of Magneto, chosen for adaptation in X-Men 97 in order to take a swing at MAGA voters. Taking to his personal Twitter account on March 21st, the Beyond the Dark and the Op Had a Nightmare director, not to be confused with Avengers Infinity War and Endgame co-director Joseph Russo, asserted, "Do you think the MAGA crowd has figured out that episode 2 of X-Men 97 is about them and the J6 yet or nah?" Met with pushback from fans, many of whom suggested that he may be reaching too far to apply a current day lens to a story taken directly from 1985. Russo further argued, they go with doubling down, "Some deeply stupid people in the comments. My favorites are, but, it's based on this old issue of Uncanny X-Men. My guys, there's 60 plus years of stories they could have chosen to launch this new series with." He added, "Why this one right now? Because it was a very popular story arc." Russo met with pushback from a supporter who begged Russo, "Don't do that. Can I just have one thing that isn't excused of being woke?" The later clarified that he meant this statement in the sense that he wanted to enjoy it without a bunch of people crapping on it and review bombing it because they are now only realizing it as woke. The director ultimately declared, "The X-Men has been woke since 1963. There it goes with the gaslight. And I actually responded to Russo on this. I basically said, Tumblr rots your brain. It's very clear that Joe Russo has never read a comic book ever. And see, this is what I am talking about. Do not let them gaslight you. Stanley himself and Chris Claremont and certainly Jim Shooter, all those years of writing X-Men stories, have confirmed it was not about any sort of political thing. It was just about the feeling of being different. And I hate to break it to the special snowflakes and the DEI crowd and the woke crowd. You do not own feeling being different. I was a nerd growing up. I didn't even really find my voice until I started doing sports. But I was a total nerd growing up. I was the kid collecting Transformers and Batman action figures. I still have a few. Some of these are newer though. And it goes on and on. I collected trading card games, I collected baseball cards, I liked sci-fi movies. And a lot of people have this sort of thing where they think, "Oh, that's always been cool." No, it's not. It's very rare that a sci-fi movie or a fantasy film or a superhero movie even gets nominated. Unless there's some sort of DEI connection, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's the only way it even gets put on the map. I mean, seriously, Avengers Infinity War, The Dark Knight, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man No Way Home, all those films should have been nominated at the Academy Awards. Yes, for Best Picture. I said it. Come after me. I don't give a crap. But anyway, this is what Hollywood wants to do. These Hollywood pretenders, they want to gaslight the fans into saying, oh, because this storyline is vaguely connected to it. And one thing that's weird is, why would the trial of the X-Men take a swing at a particular crowd? Even in the X-Men the animated series, Magneto is a terrorist. He's a he's a true solid villain who is now getting a pass because he well, I don't want to give away anything in the show, but this whole thing where Magneto is just has differing opinions on with Xavier about mutant equality. That's a whole new thing. Magneto was a straight up villain until probably the late 80s. Even for a time, he left the X-Men comics and became an Avengers villain. The Avengers actually banished him to a pocket dimension with Toad. And the whole time, while he's trapped in this pocket dimension, he goes on about how humans are ants to be stepped on and how they should worship him as a deity. This was not a pleasant fellow. But no, Russo knows better. He thinks he knows better than the fans, even though he's never picked up a comic book in his life. Oh, yeah, sure, with all this pushback, I'm sure he'll make some excuse. Of course, I used to read the comic books. Oh, look, here is a picture that I probably got off Google to show my collection from when I was a kid. It's all bunk. Don't fall for it. That's what these Hollywood pretenders do. They want to ingratiate themselves into a fan base, and then they want to gaslight the fans, the true fans, chase them out. And by the way, Marvel Entertainment, Disney, Lucasfilm, Warner Brothers, DC Films, I'm begging you, don't listen to these guys. And this Joe Russo is a guy, as far as I know. Maybe he has his pronouns in bio, whatever. But it makes no sense. So you're saying, again, going back to that comment about, trying to take a swing at the MAGA crowd. And by the way, I'm not MAGA. I have my persuasions, my political persuasions. I've shared them with you. I don't make them secrets. You can follow me on X or anywhere on my social media and you can see that. But it is just so stupid that these Hollywood pretenders have to go into something that they don't even like. I bet Russo didn't even watch the episode. He probably just watched the teaser. Now, I don't know that for sure, obviously. But just going by this, why would you align yourself with a villain, a hardcore villain? No, he's not misunderstood. Yes, he has a tragic backstory. So does Professor X. The whole thing with his real father passing away, and then his mother being constantly sick, and his stepfather just using him, marrying his mother just so he can have his money, and then being abused by his older brother, who would become one of his one of his rivals in the Juggernaut. They all have tragic backstories, villains and heroes alike. The fact is, the heroes decided to keep on keeping on, while the villains just decided to burn the place down. And when you cross that line, that is when you, in my eyes, are a total bad guy. Now, maybe X-Men 97 will do a solid job of redeeming Magneto. It's certainly possible. Villains can get redeemed. People like, Dragon Ball Z character Vegeta comes to mind. Vegeta was manipulated and controlled by the art villain Frieza. He certainly had villainous qualities, and later he became one of the Earth's greatest heroes, one of the great Saiyans. So I'm saying it's possible for X-Men 97 to redeem Magneto. They have tried in the comic books, but he always ends up being a villain all over again. So maybe this will happen in X-Men 97. I don't know. But Russo, you can't trick us anymore. We have Google now. You might have Tumblr and Wikipedia, but we actually have Google. We know that Stan Lee intended this just to be a way for teens who feel different to connect with some superheroes. We know that Chris Claremont and the great Jim Shooter wanted it to be that way also. So no, don't gaslight us. Cease and desist. We know it, and you can't do it to us anymore. No amount of virtue signaling that you try to do on a property you don't even care about can stop us from learning the truth.
Cause I've been living life right like I could just die